What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Forex Funded coming at you with another weekly analysis for gold for this upcoming week, March 1st, 2026. As always, click the links in the description if you're interested in joining my chart analysis, where you can get all of my educational videos, my signals, my full breakdowns, chat rooms, and a whole bunch more. Also, my Instagram link is there and all the other good things. So, jumping right into it. Look, we all know what happened over the weekend. We've been anticipating it for, about 2 months now. And it finally happened. So, we can definitely expect a sizable gap to the upside and a continuation that follows the initial gap. Now, we got to keep in mind, though, that these gaps and these impulse moves will always be corrected, right? So the gap itself might not be filled right away, but I can almost guarantee you that the pump that happens within the first, I like to consider the first 4 hour candle, that is going, it's going to be very volatile, okay? Because it's going to be an initial overreaction to the news, to everything that's happened, and then there will be a correction and then a continuation. So if we just take a look at the chart and we take a look at where do we think price is going to go, well, we really don't change much. We still just continue to target the same areas we've been targeting, right? So the first main area for us is going to be our 53.20 zone, right? That was based on fib extension, right? That was based on a fib extension. So that's our first target. And I say zone because we do have our large 78 up here as well, right? So from our high to our low, we have 78 right around 53.42. So rather than put that as a whole nother TP, I'm just going to say that's one big zone, 300 pip zone, right? Then our second zone is going to be our 61 extension, which happens to be right around 5,400. So we're just going to make it 54. Now, our final target before all-time highs, we got to go to the daily. I'm going to say, where did that just go? Okay. Our 5,400 once again, because I don't know where it went. Maybe I put $5,540. I don't know. But our third and final target before all-time highs for myself is going to be this major range point here, 54.95 area, right? So these are my three major targets for this week. Now, I don't know what the gap is going to do. I don't know how much it's going to gap. My guess, though, is what we're going to see is between a $30 and $60 gap and a continuation upwards immediately for anywhere from $120 to $150. And then we'll probably get that massive pullback, right? So if we just go based off of where price is currently, based off what I'm expecting, right? We can expect the gap to open us above, we'll call it 53.05, right? That's $25, right? And then we can see that initial pump from where we're price closed up. That $120 puts us right at that target 2, and $150 puts us above above target 2, right around 54.30 zone. So I'll go back to a 4 hour if you want to take a screenshot of my targets or whatever the fuck. Those are my targets. We know we did enter this trade on Friday. So that's obviously going to be a nice banger. And then another thing you can do is you can go to PAXG and kind of see what happened over the weekend, right? So obviously, it's not, price isn't going to follow this to a T, but you can, kind of just take a look and see what happened, right? So when the initial strikes happened, we had that massive pump, like $400-ish. Sorry, $300 up, and then you recovered all of it basically immediately, right? So if you take a look at where we closed, so we closed right here, right? Because this is your 4 o'clock candle, which means 5 o'clock, you don't get. So you close right there. So you retested your closing price. So basically, if you think of this as weekend price and you gap and such to the highs, you're gonna pull back to your gap, right? Then if you also relate things like where do we have if you look at the wick, we came just below halfway point of that wick. So now if you go back to your gold chart and you put the same thing, the same measurement of the wick. Obviously the wicks aren't the same size, you know what I mean? Like they're different. It's different price and different price action. But that tells you that your third target is a pretty good target for for anything. Pre all-time high, that's a good target. So that's basically just accounting for the gap. Now, obviously we did have a fresh 4-hour high last week, so we want to mark up those prior highs because at some point that will probably get retested and you'll be able to buy, right? It's exactly what happened last week, right? So last week, to close, so on Friday of not last week, the week before, we were showing strength that we wanted to break the prior 4-hour high, which we were all expecting. We had that big pullback, right? We had that big pullback to a fib, which we talked about, right? We had a golden zone pullback, right? Came to golden zone, and then this is Friday over here. This is the last candle of Friday, and then this is our Sunday gap. But we traveled up towards our 27 extension, and then we pulled back to retest the highs basically perfectly. And then after that, we just held on to the new golden zone, right? The new golden zone. So you can kind of expect that same kind of thing to happen this week, regardless of where price goes, right? Obviously, if for some reason there's crazy movement and we end up closing a daily candle above, I would say like 54.55. If we close above 54.55 for the day, then that will probably get pushed to the back burner. But if we do get basically that massive move up, and then we start to see that correction, it's very possible we come right back to that area before we go to the all-time highs, right? So you definitely want to have your eyes on the prior highs, and then at the same time, you'll be able to pull out a fib from wherever the high is, right? So for me, as I mentioned, this fib right here, it was already used, so I don't want to start with that one. What I want to start with is one that hasn't really been used, which would be using the higher lows from the initial fib. So, depending on where price gaps up to and where it stops, right, you could have a golden zone right in that area. So you're going to want to take a look at that too. So obviously that is going to be a big buy zone for us. And, I can't really give you too much analysis on how the market's going to open because I don't know how big the gap is going to be. I don't know how much it's going to push initially. I don't know what's going to happen, right? In a normal week, I can say, all right, guys, well, we might have a gap to the upside, but we're probably going to come retest this soon, right? It's not a normal week, right, with all the conflict going on. So, unfortunately, that's all I have for you guys. But I guess while we're at it, we could take a look over here at silver too, and you can see the same thing happening on silver, right? So silver broke the highs as well. They're going to move together. Silver broke the highs, retested them all week, and then broke highs again. So silver will likely have a gap up also and head towards 100, and then at some point back down to 92, and then just normal bullish structure like this, right? And you might think, oh, that's too easy to happen. That's too simple. No, it's what you get in a trending market. When the market is trending and having a very good trend, trading is easy. If it's not easy for you when it's trending, then you're doing something wrong, right? When price is sideways, when it's consolidating, that's when it becomes very tricky. But when it's trending, that is what you'll see. So you can always keep your eye on silver and gold simultaneously. to help confirm a move, right? If you're looking to buy gold, if you go to silver and silver looks like it's about to shit its pants, you might want to rethink things, right? It's not always going to happen that way, but it is always good to have that second layer of confirmation. But as I said, guys, hopefully you guys had a wonderful weekend. I hope you guys all have a great week in the market, and I hope to see some new faces in the chart analysis for this week to come.